Welcome everyone back to Spoiler Warning featuring myself, Tom Colohue. This is your one-stop shop for wrestling news and plenty more. We've got to start with a little reintroduction. Simple reintroduction to tell you guys who I am, why I'm here, and what, of course, I'm doing. My name is Tom Colohue. You may have heard the name before, usually followed by Tom Colohue Reports, or Tom Colohue Insert Insult Here, for those of you who haven't seen those. This is a wonderful, wonderful platform and a wonderful occasion and a wonderful topic to discuss. I love me some wrestling. Welcome, Liam. Good to see you, mate. And I like to talk wrestling. If you're a member of this channel, if you've joined to find out what's going on in the world of wrestling, you'll know how I do things already. I like to report what's actually happening. This seems like it should be an obvious thing, but it's actually a rarity. Because over the course of any platform on social media, over the course of following wrestling, you will all know the vast majority of people in this space are desperately trying to trick you into gaining an advantage from you. The vast majority are desperately trying to do so. And that's not necessarily just wrestling, but wrestling has made it an art form. How many people do we already know whose literal purpose in life are lies and smears? They give you the wrong information and they attack anyone who dares to question them on it. You all know this, you've all seen this, you're all fully aware of this. I try not to do that. I don't like to smear because no, that's a waste of everyone's time. What I want to do is share factual information, give you what you need to make your decisions. And that sometimes means it's a little bit slower. Welcome, Roy. This is definitely an introduction that will benefit you. In a platform that's full of bad faith actors, people who are trying desperately to take advantage of all of you, there are also people who are seemingly desperate to be taken advantage of. Thank you very much, Jess. Welcome to the show. Thank you for the heart and the lights already flowing in. I appreciate you for that. There are desperate people whose only interest is in having you confirm what they think they already know. This is difficult for someone like me. We also then see Twitter, where misinformation is the only way to grow. Facebook, Instagram now announcing reality is no longer profitable, so why actually share it? Well, we have to start with a promise, guys. A promise that I'm going to make to all of you. I'm not going in that direction. I still care about the truth. I still care about reality. And while plenty of people have left these channels to go to platforms which will confirm their biases fast, I'm never going to be that guy. I'm not in this for money. I'm not in this out of some personal vendetta. I'm here to talk about the news. I'm here to share what's actually going on, and I'm not here to mess anyone around. And if that makes me unpopular, if that makes me someone that pops up in all of these other areas, so be it. I'm not here to fleece money out of you. I don't want your money. I'm here to talk about wrestling. My promise to all of you, to everyone who will watch and everyone who might watch in the future, and everyone who has watched in the past. If you want a quick fix, if you want someone who's just going to lie to your face to make you feel better, go somewhere else. If you want someone who's going to challenge you, who's going to teach you, who's going to help you see from different angles, who's not going to bullshit and who's not going to lie, this is a place for you. You can help me, I can help you, and together this will be the most well-informed platform in wrestling. That is my promise to you. We will start, of course, by talking about the WWE on Netflix. I'll catch up a little bit with the chat as we go. Liam, I can see your suggestions for Mania. We will be talking about that. Welcome Khalid as well. I do implore you all, if you're just watching on YouTube, check out me on Blue Sky and TikTok. If you're just watching on TikTok, check out Blue Sky and YouTube, etc. as well. Make sure you're joining on the platforms because there's plenty more to share there. Erin says, hey Tom, hey chat, hope you've all had a good holiday, and that is a great place to start. Thank you, Erin, for the prompt. I hope everyone has had a great holiday. I have. It's been a little while, been a few weeks. I've really enjoyed the break, and I'm really excited to enjoy getting back to it as well. Really excited. Declan says, did anyone enjoy Raw on Netflix? I did. Who did enjoy Raw on Netflix? We're about to get into it. Tell me if you had a good time watching the first Raw on Netflix. Was it a good show in your eyes? Welcome Daz, welcome Irish, welcome Scorpio, welcome Coach Nick, welcome Marcel, Kevin, welcome Michael as well. Good to see you, mate. Martin says the legend is back, and so is Tom. Only joking. Happy New Year, mate, and all in chat. Hope you all had a great one. I hope you had a great one too, and I'm not talking about having The Rock, though that would be a great one. Wrestler fans says, hey Tom, hope you had a great new year. I really did. I'm having a great time so far. 2023, best year of my life. 2024, surpassed it. 2025, just beginning. Let's see how it goes. More on that story shortly. Daz, I don't know at this point in time. Alexa says, I'm excited for Alexa Bliss's return. Not long now. John says, hello Tom, good to see you again. And you, mate. And John says, Sylvia, no nonsense, straight to the point approach, mate. Keep being you. That is indeed the plan, and that is what I'm looking for as well. Jess says, I like the matches, but all the other filler dragged on a bit too long for me. I get that. Liam says, the Rock persona was very weird. Didn't understand the drop of the final boss. Guessing the Rock ain't working Mania then. More on that shortly. Sean says, happy 2025, and happy 2025 to you. Declan suggests that we all hit the like button. We have 30 on the YouTube side, 85 people here. Let's get that ball rolling. And if you are watching on the TikTok side, you can hit that like button as many times as you want. The likes mean that the channel grows. It does make a massive difference. Ashley loved it. Juan said, do you have any news on the max success for AEW? Dave confirmed your Malachi Black return to WWE, which he reported back in 2022. Yeah. Like, for all the bad faith actors trying desperately to tear people down, I just keep reporting what's actually going on. It's easier. Hello, Ishi. Good to see you, mate. Martin says, with some amazing matches, but was disappointed in the actual show. Much like the debut on Fox, then it sounds. Welcome, Erin. Good to see you popping over to the TikTok side as well. Bliss Gamer loved it. Declan says the microphone on Raw looks strange, and Juan loved it as well. Liam says Malachi Black at the Rumble. More on that. Not today. I've reported everything I have on Malachi Black and I have nothing new to share there. Scorpio says, I enjoyed it. So many people had negative comments about the Rock segment, but I loved it. Roy says, are you happy with the Rock returning as a babyface, respecting Cody? More on that very shortly. Ishii says, we'll be getting more of the Wyatts since they've gone to Netflix. Not really. We'll be getting about the same amount of the Wyatts. They are popular individuals. They are not a popular act. And I don't mean with the fans. Chris says, I felt underwhelmed but was okay. Would have been good if they had an unnamed return. There were no plans for that because, let's be fair, The Rock was one of those, you know? The Rock was supposed to be a big surprise and then it got out. Partly because of me, so I've got to take some blame for that. Scorpio says, watch the pig. Calvin says, I've been so irritated. A-Town Down Under and Giovanni Vinci aren't being used on SmackDown. Don't think Triple H gives a crap about these guys. They're exploring different options to make it happen. Liam's asking for favourites for the Rumble. I will have more on that shortly. Martin says, how is everyone finding Netflix? I won't lie, I actually miss the network at the minute. No WCW, no ECW, missing loads of Raws so far. Limited episodes to years so far. True, but my youngest was very happy to find all of the Royal Rumbles. We've just been watching all the women's Rumbles back to back. It's great fun. Sean says Charlotte and Nia were the favourites to win the Rumble according to Sky Bet. More on that shortly. Declan says Nikki Bella was on Raw. Cool. Roy says The Rock made a mistake when he said Raw returned to Netflix. He did. He's not always going to be that good. You know? He's not always going to be that good. You can't be perfect. No one's going to be perfect in that field. Kevin says Raw Netflix was extremely disappointing, but the best part was Hulk Hogan getting booed. Yeah, Hulk Hogan thought he was going to get cheered. Why was anyone surprised? I do think Triple H set him up, and I will enjoy it if that's what happened. Is she good? Question. As I say, when it comes to the Wyatt Six, difficult to say. Wrestler fan says, PWInsider reporting there's been pitches for Gunter versus Logan Paul for Mania 41. Any truth? There's been lots of pitches. We will be talking about it more. Juan, that is correct. Start as we mean to go on. Sean says, I think this was the first time ever, but all the top women's titles have changed hands in the span of a week. Michael says, what do you think about Triple H exposing the business in his promo on Raw? We know it's pretty soon, but they don't need to tell us during the fictional show. Triple H is very open about the fact that he no longer sees the need to kayfabe anything. Anything. He just doesn't want to. Just has no interest in doing so. Callum says, CM Punk is my favourite. Do you mean favourite wrestler or favourite for the Rumble? Liam says Punk versus Roman, Paul versus Gunter, Cody versus Cena, Charlotte versus Tiffany, all at Mania. More on that very shortly, as you know. Thank you, Robin Dave. Appreciate that. Blue says, welcome back, Tom, as well. Appreciate that. Ashley says, any update on the return of Ilya Dragunov? Not at this point in time. Jerry says, would you try Hulk Hogan's Real American Beer? Hell no, because one, not American, certainly not a real American. Two, no interest in Hulk Hogan. I think he's a piece of shit. Bailey says, Vince McMahon's non-compete ends in 2 weeks. Any update as to his future machinations? I mean plans. I've shared as much as I can on that topic. Meetings have been held with Donald Trump. Martin quite rightly pointing out the little bit of Madison Square Garden and a cage. John says, which match was better, Tribal Combat or Punk versus Rollins? Personally, Punk versus Rollins. I don't really enjoy Roman Reigns wrestling anymore. Just very, very slow, and Solo Sikoa not quite there yet. So, the first Raw on Netflix was very well received, particularly by backstage officials in the WWE and officials at Netflix. Fans did support it pretty well overall, and it's been considered a great launch for the show, a show that will, of course, span multiple years, so they know they're getting something good out of this. We don't have ratings information anymore. What I can say is that there was a huge amount of viewership, well in excess of the ratings that we have seen recently for Raw, but those numbers did include views afterwards. So Netflix just basically throw them all together, and after a week or so say, this many people watched. It was very well received. More live viewership than Raw has had in years is what I've been told, but I've not been able to confirm those numbers at this point in time, and it came from WWE, so there is reason for them to be a little bit off with me on that one. Jess says, Becky return and Penta debut at the Rumble. Liam says, Penta debut next week. We will see. As regards Pentagon Jr., we are waiting on the final confirmation, but he certainly suggests that he'll be appearing very shortly. As regards Becky Lynch, more on that shortly. Jerry says, were you happy Tiffany cashed in Money in the Bank? I hope she turns babyface. More on that shortly. As regards Tiffany Stratton, I was reporting ahead of time that this would be happening before WrestleMania. She has a big Mania match that's planned. If she says, do you know where Uncle Howdy is gone? Essentially, it's quite simple. They're not using him right now. He's not really gone anywhere. They just don't have any real ideas right now. It's difficult. He'll reappear very shortly, don't worry. Marcel says, I like the first Raw on Netflix. I'm curious about John Cena's ear. He's the reason I started following WWE. Wrestler Fan says, is The Rock completely off for Mania? More on that shortly. Chris, yes, I have seen the tweet put out by Vince. I will be updating you on that situation. Robin Day says, is WWE planting seeds for Rock versus Roman? Rock versus Roman has been the plan for a long time. It was originally planned for next year's WrestleMania. Blue says, people thinking Hogan got booed because of politics seem to forget he was booed in Florida. Most major cities in the US are also liberal, so yeah. Also, more importantly, he is a piece of shit. Joe says, hey Tom, how are you doing today? How was your Christmas and New Year? Went very well, thank you. Really quite enjoyed it. It was a big family event, which I'm not used to, but I have quite enjoyed. Liam thinks he's gone to get Alexa Bliss as regards Uncle Howdy. Blair says, what's up, Tom? What's up, Blair? Good to see you. Blue says, Netflix did release the ratings for the first episode for Live Plus One, which is how ratings are usually recorded by Nielsen. Ishii says, will Uncle Howdy look the same or different? Again, don't think he's really gone, as it were. Sid says, when is SmackDown going back to 2 hours? They're expecting it in about 6 months, minimum. Blue says, going to Raw this week. My bro's finally going to see his favourite Dakota live. Really hope I get to see Penta. KJ says, what's up, Tom? Steve says, Iron Sheik was always right about the Hulk Hogan. Cheeky baby smiling from heaven. No, Sid, I'm not really big on getting drunk in general. Juan says, speaking of LA, Tom's I'm aware of this. I don't want to put too much focus onto it. My thoughts are obviously with everyone in that area. I know a couple of people, very small amount, but I do know a couple of people in that area. Hopefully, they're able to do something about this. But this happens every year now. It gets worse every year, and people still refuse to believe in climate change. So it'll get worse under Trump. Bailey says, LA didn't boo The Undertaker over his politics. It was all about Hogan. This was a night of new beginnings, and Hogan shows up like it's 1983. Sean says, thoughts on Liv, Nia and Roxanne's reign. Now they are over. Pretty good. Pretty good. Liv didn't have opponents. Nia didn't really have opponents either. Roxanne certainly had a lot and made a lot of good stuff with them. Liam says, how long will Nakamura's reign be? Hard to say. It's only just started. And Jess says, 3-hour shows are too long for me. Pardon me. Thank you, Sid. Appreciate that update. Sean, as regards Last Woman Standing, from what I can tell, they ran out of time, so they basically cancelled the match stipulation. They added more to the show and quietly made it go away. So, The Rock. The Rock was always planned for a Netflix appearance. The WWE had organised this a long time ago. It was actually organised well before he appeared at Bad Blood, which was not originally planned. The promo is designed to move away from his heel status. That's then to leave the door open for future plans, because as of this moment, there are no plans involving The Rock wrestling. You will note I didn't say at WrestleMania, I said wrestling. As of right now, there are no plans that involve The Rock. It's an interesting one. I can confirm that there has been a number of cancellations in the plans for WrestleMania and a number of changes to what the original plans were for WrestleMania. You in fact saw many of the matches that would have appeared at WrestleMania on the Netflix card. Examples of that: Rollins versus Punk was planned for WrestleMania. Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa in Tribal Combat, planned for WrestleMania. I've reported on these in the past. Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley was being planned and pushed towards WrestleMania, with Raquel Rodriguez distracting Rhea Ripley to try and give Liv some new people to compete with. Also, The Rock versus Cody Rhodes was planned for WrestleMania. All 4 of these matches have been cancelled, primarily because of outside factors. When they had CM Punk sign his new deal, that meant he wanted a higher profile match at WrestleMania. He's got what he wanted. As regards Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa, fans went into it. They saw an opportunity to move Reigns into a different feud, and they took it. Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley, we'll get onto the reason for that very shortly. Yes, it's what you think it is. As regards The Rock and Cody Rhodes, as I've just mentioned, there are no plans at the moment for The Rock to wrestle again for the WWE. This will likely change over time. The WWE won't abandon him entirely, but as of right now, there are no plans laid out for The Rock at all. At all. Ricky says, hi Tom buddy, good to see you. Happy Friday. Did I miss anything? Nothing major, Ricky. Welcome to the show. KJ said, oh yes, I did get back to you. Oh, gotcha, mate. Gotcha. For those that don't know, KJ does have a YouTube channel. He asked me for a bit of help ensuring that one of his videos was doing well. I gave him some advice on what to change the title to. Apparently it's working quite well. Good to know. It's good to know. Sean says, good to see that Becky re-signed. More on that shortly. Ashley says, Tom, sorry if this has been asked before, but is Omos appearing in Nowhere Alone? And what does WWE get in return? It is alone, and what they get is more experience and TV time for Omos. Liam says, I thought they had unlimited time on Netflix, so why cancel The Last Women Standing? They don't have unlimited time. They still aim for 3 hours. The reason they don't have unlimited time is because they can't have people sit there for 5 hours when they've advertised in accordance with the city that they're in to make sure that people can get home. Jess says, I'm still wanting Mama Rhodes versus Mama Rock at WrestleMania. We have 36 likes on the YouTube side. 4 more gets us to 40. We're approaching 100 viewers. A couple more likes will get us there. So if you can, please remember to do so. Sid says it was pointless, The Undertaker being on Raw, just riding his motorbike around the ring. It was a spectacle. Made people recognise it. Declan says, my predictions for the Royal Rumble winners are Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. Hello, Aled. Welcome to you as well, mate. Blue says, I honestly thought The Rock looked rough last year, so I don't need to watch him wrestle again, but leaving Cody and Roman hanging does suck. Ricky says, I was wondering why The Rock was being such a babyface, so no Cody and Rock. Declan says, quite rightly, the Royal Rumble next year is in Saudi. One of the many reasons I will not be doing a watch party for this year's Royal Rumble is that I knew that next year's Royal Rumble I definitely wouldn't be doing a watch party, but I didn't have it properly confirmed yet, so I couldn't share it. Robin Day says, I thought Roman wanted to put over Solo as a new tribal chief. He did. He was not permitted to. Let's just mention the word The Rock one more time. Blue says, Cody versus Cena really works for me. Will be sad if Gunter doesn't make it to Mania as champ. Joe says, Tom, what do you think of Raw on Netflix and what was your favourite bit about it? Really enjoyed the main event, to be honest. Sid says, not having WWE Network will be a saving of £119.88p per year, which is savings that I can put into this old-fashioned business. One says, PWInsider reported Netflix edited and censored The Rock for swearing. I mean, he can get away with it in the arena, but if Netflix are on the ball, why not? You know? Why not do what you need to do? We did say it's going to be the same PG. There's not going to be any particular changes to it. Liam says, there were rumours Nikki Bella will be returned to the ring. Any truth to this? No, her neck at this point in time will not allow her to. She would need to be cleared by a WWE doctor. Alec's predictions for the Rumble winners are Io Sky and Drew McIntyre. And Liam says CM Punk is definitely going to fake an injury January next year to miss the Rumble. Yeah. Awkward because he'll probably be champion by then. Calvin says, I think my man crush on Julius Creed may get bigger this year. I mean, enjoy it, mate. Enjoy it. Dylan says, where do you see the bloodline story going now that Roman is the tribal chief again? I still feel like Solo will have a SmackDown bloodline and Roman will have a Raw bloodline. I feel like we'll get exactly the same place. They just made sure Roman won, which doesn't really work for me. Yes, Kervin, Raw will continue to be 3 hours. Backward says, I think Cody versus McIntyre would be a good pivot for the main event of Mania. More on that shortly. Ricky says, do you see Jacob turning on Solo tonight? Personally, no. He loves him. Blue says, Hogan in the Saudi Rumble was a 1-2 punch I did not need. And Wrestler Fan says, will Gunter defend the championship of the Rumble? And if so, against who? Yes, and they're working on that at the moment. Sean, no, there will not be a watch party for the Royal Rumble. Sean, you're right, she did say that, but the WWE would have to call and clear her. Dylan says, I don't know why Saudi Arabia even need one of the big four. They have their own PLEs already. KJ says, thoughts on Billy Batty, and I stopped reading because the guy is a... how best to describe... Leech. Jess says, do you see Judgment Day being a faction by the time Mania happens? Yes. Liam says, fun fact, Drew and Roman are the only two people to pin Cody in single competitions. Martin says, I'd have Cena not win the Rumble, let him upset. Nearly gives up, but the Elimination Chamber is his ticket, aka Shawn Michaels. Blue says, Roman winning only felt like it made sense if Roman was wrestling Rock. It really undercut Solo. It really did. Aaron Lewis says, you called Alistair but no credit. Yeah, that happens. That happens all the time. Welcome, Aaron. This is unfortunately something that you will start to recognise. Here in the Tom Colohue channels, we report a hell of a lot of news that is proven correct. No credit is ever given, under any circumstances. Steve says, I think Drew is the best fit to win the Rumble. He can eliminate all the favourites en route to winning and conquering Cody at WrestleMania. Next bit of news. Thank you, Liam. I like that. It's not going to work, but yeah. Interesting, Jess. So, Punk versus Gunter is one of the leading contenders for WrestleMania, but the card is still being withdrawn. There was, as I mentioned previously, an intention to have Drew McIntyre versus Gunter. The pivot is now in play. Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton has been mentioned a number of times as well, but also, yes, Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes is something that they are now considering and wanting to make happen. Drew McIntyre is one of the favourites for the Royal Rumble, as is CM Punk, for similar reasons. Also mentioned is the idea of Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley. And now we have to get onto Becky Lynch. I can confirm that Becky Lynch was at the show, at the first Raw on Netflix. She wasn't there for anything to do with wrestling. She was there to sign a contract. Rumours are that she has signed the new deal originally offered to her and agreed in June. I did mention a number of times what I expected with Becky Lynch. 1, deal's already in place, she ain't going anywhere but WWE. 2, she'll return in time for the Royal Rumble and will be heavily featured in that space. 3, she will become one of the highest paid wrestlers in history. One of the highest paid wrestlers in history. That is another perfect example of me reporting exactly what is happening, and you will note once again, no credit was given at all. Sean says, how long do you see Julia as champion NXT? Not too long. She's basically ready for the main roster already. Roy says, will Tiffany Stratton turn babyface tonight? Not to my knowledge, no. Joe says, my Royal Rumble predictions are John Cena and Becky. Hector said, Tom, did you expect that tribal combat match to be so overbooked? Yeah. Yeah, I did, unfortunately. Yeah. Ugh. Robin Dave says, will Roman be at WrestleMania? Absolutely, he will. Blue says, Cody versus Drew. Okay, you have me. Chris, welcome, says, good evening, Tom. Good evening to you. Michael says, what about Samoa and Joseph? Is he WWE bound in the near future too? It's been about a year now. Yes. Yes, he is. The contact has already been made between WWE and Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe has let Triple H know that he's interested. That's all it's going to take. That is all it's going to take. Alan says, what's the plans for Cena at Mania? I've seen Cody versus Cena floating around. I don't know yet. The first conversation about it happened on Monday. I don't really know what he's saying there, Aaron. Jess says, any plans for getting Dom out of women's feuds? Yes and no. There are some plans for Dominic Mysterio, but we'll see how that goes. I'll talk about them in a bit. Martin says, sorry to ask, but you're coming away from PLE watch-alongs or just Rumble? Just Rumble at the moment. Just Rumble at the moment. We'll be live for Elimination Chamber. We'll be live for WrestleMania. I'm not guaranteeing regular watch parties going forwards. Yes, Rory, quite happy to see Tiffany as champion. Ricky, no Wyatt 6 news tonight. No. Marcel's predictions are Kevin Owens and Becky. Roy said, do you see Cena getting 17 titles? Nope, because he doesn't want to. Dylan says, what's next for Roman if we finish with the bloodline? Different feuds. Plenty of people he could work with. Bailey says, with that pop after beating Nia, Tiffany is already a babyface. Not true. So, Tiffany Stratton is still listed on the heel side of alignment for the WWE. There is a reason for this. Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair is planned to return to the WWE shortly as a face. The WWE wants Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton. I've mentioned this a few times before, and that is something that they're considering for WrestleMania. So she's still a heel primarily because of Charlotte Flair. Liam says, what about a faction of Kevin, Seth and Drew? Is that a possibility? Seth and Drew, I can see. That was respectful. Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre have some history. I don't think we'll get a faction, but we may get some connections. Blue says, honestly, the tribal combat match felt underbooked for Roman's main event these days. True. Backwards says, I saw a report from Fightful that Malachi Black is done in AEW heading back to WWE. Pretty sure you reported that months ago. Yep. Once again, you will see no credit for this. So when people ask if I'm reliable, the reason people think I'm not is because basically nobody gives me credit. And then the ones who don't give me credit when I report something correctly are the ones saying, no, he's not reliable. They are hiding the truth. Hiding it. Hiding it. One says, I agree, Tom, but WWE made it too obvious Becky wasn't leaving because they kept her on the roster page. They should have taken her off to work people. Steve, Samoa Joe is not yet a free agent to my knowledge. Give it time. Michael says, any news on Damian Priest's future plans? A little bit still to come. Yes, backwards, Omos is still with WWE. Blue says, any idea on if Jade is actually hurt or where her story might be headed? Yes, she was actually hurt, not hurt in any particular serious amount. There was a report from, I believe, PW Nexus that she was going to be out for a year. Simply incorrect. Liam says Seth and Cody going to be interesting after Cody teamed with Reigns after Seth helped Cody to beat Roman. Aaron, you just wait as regards Meechin. You just wait. The plans, by the way, with Jade Cargill involve Naomi and Bianca Belair. There was a pitch for Bianca Belair versus Jade Cargill at WrestleMania. That pitch is gaining some steam. Cal says, hey Tom, May, hope you and the family are well. When do you think we'll see the Y6 versus the Final Testament? Could it involve Alexa? Soon, maybe. Steve says, I think Cena will win the IC title this year to finish off that trophy cabinet. Could be a good way to put someone over toward the end of the year. Certainly, I think would be good to put over a Sheamus. Blue says, I've heard people mention Charlotte coming back as a heel. When she left you as a face, she's kind of reached legend status, so booing her isn't nearly as natural as it once was. That's true. I think a lot of people have decided she's coming back heel because they don't like women. Declan says, could WWE give Becky an 8th championship at WrestleMania for putting over Rhea last year and putting over Liv? Yeah. Dylan says, no offense, but I don't like Charlotte Flair. I think she's overrated and is just giving off everything because she's the daughter of Ric Flair. Suppose she's going to win the belt off Tiffany when she returns, I'd imagine that's supposed to say. To be fair, Dylan, the last several years, people have accused Charlotte Flair of always winning the championship. She hasn't done so. Kervin, WrestleVotes has been proven wrong a number of times. Yes, to my knowledge, Charlotte Flair will be returning as a face. It may be that she returns as a face and then there's a double turn, but to my knowledge, she's returning as a face. Steve says, oh my god, Tom, haven't thought about Cena versus Sheamus as a possibility. That's going to be a banger if it happens. Banger after banger after banger. Jess says, Becky and Charlotte shouldn't lose matches for at least 6 months when they return. I don't care. Becky's put over enough people at this point. Some people would agree, some people would not. Carl says, Tom, do you know when you said a few months ago you expected a member of the Y6 to go missing? Is that what you meant? We've not seen Howdy in a few weeks, expecting he'll debut a new mask and attire. There'll be periods where they all go missing. It's not really about that. Haley, I appreciate that, but I've got my own Discord, and honestly, when it comes to Discords, by and large, what I've experienced is not good times. I'm open to chatting wrestling if you would like to do so. Discords outside of my own, which I just use to chat with friends, not really for me, but appreciate the offer. Blue says, Charlotte has won a lot of titles, but the last 5 years she spent more time without a title than with. She's also lost a lot of them cleanly. Yes, indeed. Appreciate that, Haley. Roy says, Sheamus puts Gary Neville in a cloverleaf move on a podcast that Gary Neville does. Saw it, loved it. And Joe says, Tom, did you hear Becky is filming Happy Gilmore too? Yeah, she's got a very, very full plate. Blue says, Bianca vs Jade for the US title at Mania. I'm still not flinching. And Mari says, hello, Tom. Happy New Year, and Happy New Year to you. Jon says, I see Becky in the Rumble match at number 30. Cal says, do you think we'll see Solo today? I do wonder if Jacob Fatu or Tama Tonga will attack him. Aaron says, is there solid plans for the Y6 going forwards? Yes, but not a lot of them. There are plans. They don't last very long, basically. Appreciate that, Jacqueline. It's a nice thing to say. Nice thing to hear. Always appreciate the support. Where was I? Logan Paul has signed a new deal with the WWE. His deals are relatively short, and I did report that he would need to sign a new deal in order to return to the WWE. He kicked up a bit of a fuss on Twitter. WWE reached out. We are where we are. Triple H is said to be keeping him on a short leash, but there are a number of matches that he's being pitched for. He still wants to work with The Rock, and The Rock wants to work with him. Unfortunately, at this point in time, there is no Rock to work with. Logan Paul signing a new deal for the WWE, which covers a small amount of matches. We're talking between 3 and 5. Liam, that final showdown, I'm sure, will be relatively soon. Roy says, when will there be transfers in WWE? They're actively happening as we speak. A lot of Roman Reigns on Raw, for example. Dominic says, hi Tom, how was your holiday? Just logged in. You know Gunter is facing next. Do you think The Rock will return? I don't know for certain who is facing next. There's a long list of people who want him. As regards The Rock, I've already reported on that one. There are no plans at the moment that involve him wrestling. Liam, glutton for punishment, I tell you. Dylan says, what did you think when you saw that Roman won the match? You'd initially reported Roman was going to lose because Jacob was going to become the new tribal chief. Jacob is still going to become the tribal chief, but not so immediately. I did report a while back that The Rock was looking at changing some things. The match had been changed out of WrestleMania, and even though Roman wanted to lose, there's been some changes to the script there. So I was surprised. Carl says, by not lasting long, does that mean group splitting up or the next story doesn't last long? The next story doesn't last long. Blue says, I'm kind of sad that the Rhea Bianca match that seemed to be setting up for years has sort of just disappeared. Probably because Rhea is such a successful face. Indeed, they're both at the very height of their powers. Jess, I don't have spoilers for the results tonight. Kevin says, I hope with this 3-hour show on SmackDown, Triple H showcases more talent. And Counterfeit says, I think I see about 6 girls return to the Women's Royal Rumble. Jade, Asuka, Becky, Charlotte, Alexa, and AJ. Bailey says, how soon before Jade confronts her attacker? Before Mania, I would say. Noob says, hello, Mr. Colohue. Hello, Noob. Good to see you. And Blue says, did you mean Solo's tribal chief or do you really mean Jacob? Both. Solo Sikoa was tribal chief. Jacob Fatu is lined up to be a future tribal chief. I do think I've been pretty clear on that one. Jess says, I've read that one. Liam says, what's next for CM Punk now? Royal Rumble, mate. Big deal, this one. Big one for him. Hulk Hogan. I've reported on this a number of times, and once again, no credit for this one. Hulk Hogan has been begging to appear on Raw TV for months. He's been asking the WWE to help him capitalize on momentum that he gained from the Republican National Convention. And he also is trying to put in a good word with Trump. This is difficult, given that he doesn't have Trump's ear and thus can't put in a good word with Trump. He essentially wanted to appear on WWE TV to get himself in front of Trump's face to try and build a partnership. It's not going to work. He finally did get his wish to appear on WWE TV. It was Nick Khan who made the choice over Triple H's head. Hulk Hogan is said to have paid for the privilege. Paid for the privilege. Cal says, what are your thoughts on Penta? Are you excited for next week? At this point, to be honest, I just want to see him land. I just want to see him get involved. My worry is that he's going to feud with LWO for like 6 months. WWE, innit? Blue says, I feel like they should consider another expanded men's rumble. I feel like it should just be as star-studded as possible. Works for me. Counterfeit says, who do you personally see returning for both men's and women's rumbles? It depends what you mean by returns. I definitely see, for example, Becky and Alexa and Charlotte being in and around it. Carmella, quite possibly. For the men, there aren't that many people I would expect to make big returns because there's so many people who just haven't been anywhere. Yes, Jessa, it's fairly safe to assume Jordynne Grace is going to be involved. Noob, I don't have the dedicated plans for people who are current and not in the WWE. Kel says, I remember you saying, Tom, about 8 months ago, Hogan will get seriously booed, and it happened. Yeah. Oh, I wasn't lying. Michael says, Hogan is so delusional. Kervin thinks Nia Jax's best opponent by far has been Naomi. I'd give Bailey her props, but I think you're right. Dylan says, why do you think Punk will be champion by next year, and who do you see him beating? You're asking me to predict the future. Blue says, Hogan paid for the privilege. Does he have a humiliation fetish? No king shame. We don't yuck anyone else's yum. Liam says they were planning to change the Rumble to 2 nights. Will that be it? For the Rumble in Saudi, 2 days. Quite possibly. We'll see how that goes. Current favourites for the Royal Rumble are Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair on the women's side. On the men's side, CM Punk and Drew McIntyre are up there. There is a lot of conversations about a returning wrestler winning the Rumble. That would have to be on the women's side. CM Punk is said to be desperately trying to make a Royal Rumble win and a WrestleMania Championship win happen. That doesn't mean that it's going to. Drew McIntyre is getting a lot of love. He was the guy that I was hearing everything about for the past 6 months. Aaron says, are there any long-term plans for Uncle Howdy? Yes. Jess says, any news on Asuka? Fit and firing? Not quite cleared. Liam says, will Cena win the Chamber if he's not going to win the Rumble? Why would he win either of those? He's not guaranteed to be in a championship match. Chris says, I've stated several times I personally want Penta to stay away from both the LWO and Legada del Fantasma. Yeah, that would be typecasting to the highest degree. Yes, Bailey, that's exactly what happened. Hogan bought commercial time for beer. Good way of putting it. Christopher Leclerc says, Charlotte Flair or Becky Lynch. Counterfeit says, I think Backlash could go to Italy, Tom, and I hope they have Clash of the Castle in Ireland this year. They want it in Ireland. They haven't got good offers from Northern Ireland. Dublin are willing to pay, but not to the level that the WWE is said to be wanting. They think they can get more. The WWE are apparently unhappy with the lack of interest from fans in Judgment Day at this point in time. A refresh is incoming. This involves Dominic Mysterio, Liv Morgan, and Damian Priest. Interest they hoped was going to be high for more Finn Balor, Damian Priest. That simply is not the case. So they're looking at new ways to try and keep people interested as the days go on. Right now, we are seeing some options pitched backstage for some big changes around Royal Rumble time. The push for Damian Priest seems to be over. Cal says Penta versus Braun Breaker at WrestleMania would hit hard, and Michael McCafferty thinks Cody Rhodes is the best wrestler ever. Liam says, when do you see Cena next? Any of the upcoming Raws or SmackDowns? Yes, many of them this year. Aaron says it looks like Pretty Deadly are slowly working their way into the title picture. Triple H has been working hard to sort of rebirth the tag division. Pretty Deadly are going to be an important part of that. Roy says AEW signing Camille and never using her as she's one of the best wrestlers in the world. Wouldn't know. Kevin says, I remember a lot of people said the first Raw Netflix is going to draw more compared to Mike versus Logan. Blue says a certain Mr. Black as new Judgment Day leader. I could see that working. I can definitely see that working. Michael says, do you think Indy Hartwell could be in AEW or Ring of Honor in the near future? Both are said to be interested. Dylan says, this is probably just wishful thinking on my part, but I think this is the year Ireland finally gets a PLE. They need to offer a lot more money to the WWE to make that happen. Christopher says, Bayley is the best wrestler ever. Razar says, do you know why WWE changed Judgment Day's theme song? The Other Side was an amazing song. They ran out of the license. The license expired, so they had to change it. Alex says, I hope Joe Hendry will be in the Rumble. Likely so. Aaron Lewis says, what's the direction on New Day? Are they waiting for Big E to be cleared? They cannot guarantee that Big E will be cleared, so they are going their own way. Go their own way. Liam, WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia is unlikely. Up until about 2 months ago, it was impossible. Cal says, I do think we'll see the YS6 versus Judgment Day. Well, according to many people, that's what the plan was about 5 months ago. Jess says, I feel bad for whatever woman draws one in the Rumble next year. Wrestling for ages, all covered up. Yeah, that's a very fair point. I don't think there's going to be an Iron Woman, as it were. It's a very fair point. Well made, Jess. Vince McMahon is trying to trick you. You see, this is one of those. I said at the beginning, what I do here is facts. Reality. Not whatever people want to make up. Vince McMahon has accepted defeat when it comes to the investigation into his use of WWE funds for hush money payments. He admitted to knowingly violating the United States Securities Exchange Act, but naturally, he's playing it off on Twitter as minor accounting errors. Due to the nature of social media now, that will become the story for most people. But as Razar has rightly pointed out, at the very least, he got community noted. What he said wasn't true. What he said isn't true. But there are many who will decide to believe it. There are many who thought he was innocent of everything anyway, and as I said at the beginning, there are so many people in this space, the only thing they care about is someone proving them right, even when they're wrong. We need to be aware of this. With this in mind, I do want to say a little bit about 2025 and my plans. As you know, beginning of next month, I will be launching a brand new series here on YouTube. That will be a once a month video, and that video will be covering wrestling in a true crime style. I'm very excited for it. However, advertising and growth on different platforms is getting harder. Facebook has followed the lead of Twitter out of fear. abandoned quality moderation, and fact-checking. Long term, I don't do this for money, I do it for fun. As such, I don't have to chase the dragon with any of these different sites which are desperately sharing misinformation and desperately smearing everyone involved. With this in mind, Twitter can go away. Go away entirely. I will use it for DMs and communication. That's pretty much it. Outside of that, I won't be using Twitter going forwards. What I will be using is Blue Sky. So if you haven't followed me on Blue Sky, pop over now and make sure that you do so. Going forwards, YouTube will be the home of long-form videos and live content. TikTok will be the home of short-form content and live videos. And Blue Sky will be live news and written content. That's what it's going to be. I'm not going to regret a second of it. Aaron Lewis says, Wrestleverse has gone quiet since he was targeting you. I wonder why. Because he was talking bullshit. Bullshit. Kel says, kind of disgusted with the Royal Rumble being in Saudi. You and me both, mate. You and me both. Christopher says, I'd like to see Roxanne Perez at number 1 in the Royal Rumble. I'm confident she will appear. Kel says, Vince McMahon should be condemned for the rest of time. The case today doesn't involve Janelle Grant, which is very fair. Bailey, TikTok will not be closed. TikTok was potentially going to be banned in America, except no it isn't. It's Donald Trump. He needs to amplify his message as much as possible, and a little backhander is all it takes. He's already put a pause on it. It's not going to happen. WWE will be continuing to use TNA wrestlers. A couple will appear in the Royal Rumble, Roy. Brian says, do you think they will turn Liv back to babyface anytime soon? Not anytime soon, no. And Roy says, do you think WWE would be interested in signing Rich Swann? No. Liam says, Owens versus Punk or Punk versus Miz would be so good. And Dylan says, do you think the supposed Cena versus Cody and Roman versus Punk plans for Mania will happen? What supposed is this? Where have these come from? Hearing a lot of different matches which are apparently going to happen and waiting for any of it to actually turn up. We have been live for just over 45 minutes. I'm going to wrap up there. We will be back on Monday. We are back from here on out. I look forward to seeing you all then. In the meantime, as I've said so many times now, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.